In the review of the first DVD volume of Kimi ga Nozomu Eien for Anime News Network, Theron Martin is mildly dismissive of the opening episodes, explaining that the setup takes too long to get to the pivotal accident, especially since it is widely advertised as a key story component. While their statement doesn't read as malicious, I do think that it comes across as a bit callous, as if the accident was where the story got good. This sentiment continues through the rest of their review, explaining that they were not very impressed with the conventional high school love story that encompasses the opening act. As conventional as it might seem, the first 2 episodes carry with it a unique sense of purposefulness in its writing, character development, and directional choices. Kimi ga Nozomu Eien's anime establishes a comfortably brisk pace that invites me into the ongoing narrative. From the onset, there was something oddly compelling about the story. I'm not sure if it was the promptness of the story beats or effective character writing, but I quickly grew invested in everything the show offered. Underscores of innocence and melancholy intertwined perfectly with distinctive stylized visuals to help create a sense of identity for the series. Leading up to the final part of the second episode, the air feels off. The summer sky illuminates the town gently as the main trio separately converge upon the moment that would go on to define their futures. When I first watched Kimi ga Nozomu Eien, I didn't know about Haruka's fate. Upon rewatch, the lead up to the tragedy was all the more distressing. The end of the episode abruptly concludes with a scene of a heart-wrenching accident. Shattered glass from a phone box, crumpled metal barriers, ambulance lights bouncing across the station plaza, and a blood-stained pink ribbon lying on the ground. Then we get the first title drop, Kimi ga Nozomu Eien, as the sentimental Rumbling Hearts by栗林みな実brings the good times to an end. The opening act is not only a simple setup, but also a statement of intent. It took only 2 episodes to effectively establish the complex drama that would soon entangle these friends who, just the day prior, were high school students looking forward to their increasingly bright futures. That was the day their summer ended. I've seen too many stories eager to kill their characters, but not many of them are willing to inflict upon them tragic or life-altering accidents. Too many narratives are concerned with the drama of life and death in absolution. One time I was watching a movie with my parents, and my dad asked, "Does anyone die in this one?" I don't think he meant anything sinister by it, but I've come to learn that the expectation of death as conflict has conditioned people to expect the worst. People understand loss and can empathize easily with that. Accidents are tangible, but harder to convey to the same extreme degree. So, Kimi ga Nozomu Eien shows us the month leading up to August 20th that culminates in a uniquely heart-wrenching crescendo. The opening 2 episodes briefly give us a look at the uneasy start to a relationship between Suzumiya Haruka and Narumi Takayuki as they approach the start of their final year of high school. Takayuki is indecisive, impulsive, and uncertain of his future. He wants to take the easy way out of high school and attend a small university, as opposed to taking the initiative to get into the more prestigious Hakuryo Daigaku. Meanwhile, Hayase Mitsuki and Taira Shinji encourage their mutual friends to gather into a relationship where the timid Suzumiya Haruka ultimately confesses to Takayuki on a hill overlooking the town. Takayuki accepts her confession but doesn't initially appear to reciprocate these feelings. Maybe he was just thinking that having a girl by his side would make his last summer vacation a little more fun. Takayuki's half-hearted acceptance slowly festers and strains the relationship between the two. Haruka is sincere in her romantic feelings, while Takayuki seems to just be going through the motions, not really invested in placating her with kindness. This leads Haruka to call him one night, bluntly asking if he truly loves her, finally asking for the answer she deserved the entire time. Be it with a renewed sense of obligation or simply the result of his non-discriminatory kindness, Takayuki finally reciprocates these feelings to Haruka under the tree on that hill, and their relationship begins to blossom once again. The two promise to go on a date on the morning of August 20th. What makes Suzumiya Haruka's tragedy so painful to watch unfold is knowing that she is a victim caught in the crossfire of many discordant, unfortunate events. This is also what allows Kimi ga Nozomu Eien's melodrama to flourish. Haruka's innocence makes watching and rewatching the series so heart-wrenching. She waited for Takayuki at the station like they promised, and just so happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Meanwhile, Narumi Takayuki runs into Hayase Mitsuki and gets sidetracked shopping, buying her a ring from a street vendor along the way. Neither of them intended to delay one another, least of all hurt Haruka, but the accident occurred nevertheless. I read the accident as a consequence of Narumi Takayuki's continued indecision. He might have started to make amends with Haruka, but the relationship was still tainted by the lack of reciprocated loyalty. Haruka was unequivocally in love with him, and Takayuki was never truly able to earnestly accept her feelings. The accident was also a consequence of his non-discriminatory kindness. Takayuki's greatest fallacy is continuously placating others with his kindness. False kindness is a cruel lie that leads to misunderstandings and unwarranted hope. On the morning of August 20th, he treats Mitsuki kindly, and she indulged in a brief moment of happiness, knowing that she cannot otherwise have what she desires most. I understand Hayase Mitsuki, but regardless of circumstances, I will never be able to accept her. From her perspective, she was dealt an unfavorable hand. She was forced to hide her feelings for Takayuki out of obligation for her best friend. Maybe one day, she hoped that Takayuki would be waiting for her. But now that friend is comatose after a terrible accident and might very well never wake up again. Should she wait forever? At that time, Takayuki was understandably distraught and unable to move on, claiming responsibility, and remained emotionally distant in his apartment. So Mitsuki initially approaches Takayuki with careful affection, trying to ease him out of his unstable mental state. However, Mitsuki's actions are also selfishly taking advantage of the situation. She chose to not wait forever. Consequently, she is broken by the passage of time. Her mental state grows increasingly volatile as she begins to indulge in sex for the sake of pleasure and drinking to drown any semblance of guilt and debauchery. And through it all, Mitsuki still wears that ring Takayuki bought her 3 years prior. Takayuki, meanwhile, lets the tragedy fester in his mind as atonement for his greatest sin. All the while, his room remains the same. The Valjourn on, arcade poster on the wall, university entrance exam reference books on shelves, and the same messy appearance. He is a boy stuck in time. Mitsuki and Takayuki's relationship is strained further once Suzumiya Haruka wakes up. When I first watched Kimi ga Nozomu Eien, I fell in love with Suzumiya Haruka. Rewatching the series 4 years later, I fell in love with her all over again. Haruka is a devoted sweetheart. She's not really realistic, but the idea of her existence, even in fiction, is like a dream come true. 4 years ago, I was beginning to realize that I cared very deeply about these altruistic, dere main heroine types more than I wanted to admit. Haruka was the girl who made me come to terms with these feelings. Deep down, I appreciate the sentimental nonsense of these stories. Other series like True Tears, A Tale of Memories, or even School Days similarly helped me realize that I liked anime that are like soap operas, defined by intensely complex interpersonal drama. After her dream, Kimi ga Nozomu Eien unfairly drops the amnesiac Suzumiya Haruka amidst a bitter domestic drama. Her candid sincerity felt like a gentle summer breeze amidst my personal anxieties at the time. I no longer felt the need to deny the fact that I loved simply nice girls. I stopped needing more. The first time I watched The Accident, at the end of the second episode, I cried. The second time I watched The Accident, I was already crying before it happened. My stoicism dismantled upon seeing her fragile figure on the hospital bed. I was utterly helpless to change what had already been written, and had to just watch in agony as the unfair world threatened to take her gentle smile away again. I had always dismissed these type of girls because they just seemed uncomfortably devoted and perfect. But Haruka made me feel like I can open my heart. Obviously, these girls can never exist in reality, and that is precisely what makes them work so well in anime and bishoujo games. Only in the disgustingly self-indulgent prose of an overly melodramatic eroge could the sincerity of a pure-hearted Sleeping Beauty be truly expressed. To continue to love Haruka after the accident is to keep a promise. If I were in the same position as Takayuki, I'd also probably slip into a destructive mental state, truly never able to move on, and never forgiving my sense of responsibility. But most of all, I'd never be able to forget about hurting the girl that was least deserving of pain. Haruka frozen in time serves as a reminder of the past we can never forget. To remain by her side is also to be a hopeless romantic trapped by the logic of dreams. Many can promise loyalty, but at what point are you realistically supposed to give up? My idealistic convictions, both in reality and within the world of illusions, is to never forget. I'd continue my obligation to stay by Haruka's side and always be there for her. I'd want to take her by the hand to the hill at sunset. I'd confess to her all over again. I'd confess to her every day if I had to. And above all else, I'd make sure that she would never need to wait for me. I'd never let her down. Not everyone will have a chance to have a kind-hearted person confess their feelings to them without a trace of malice. So that's why I instead wish to remain in a place where dreams like that can continue to exist. To love Haruka is to be a hopeless romantic who chases dreams. My love for her burns with devotion, not quite moe, but something that isn't exactly love. Perhaps it's the lifelong obsession with the idea of a perfect partner. Kimi ga Nozomu Eien's central conflict is unfair. Its opening act illustrates a memory of halcyon summer days, while the following 12 chapters luxuriate in the drama of unenviable circumstance that took it all away. Kimi ga Nozomu Eien is, as the title suggests, a story about longing for eternity. Perhaps if time never flowed, then life would have continued as it were, in that sun-faded photograph from the summer of '98. Some people are swept up in the flow of time, while others just let it pass them by. Kimi ga Nozomu Eien is challenging us to decide if the person we love the most is worth hurting another for. To gain what you treasure the most, you have to give up something else. In the final episode of the television anime, Suzumiya Haruka and Nanami Takayuki meet one last time on a sunset shore. She smiles weakly as her tears glistened against the warmth of the sky above. Their distant dream of love had already faded away. The first time I watched this scene, I was frustrated that Takayuki didn't protest her decision to part ways, but upon rewatch, I realized that Haruka's difficult choice was perhaps for the best. She longed for the boy of 3 years prior, and would inevitably spend the rest of her life looking for the person that no longer exists. Meanwhile, Takayuki would spend the rest of his life trying to make up for the time that can never be taken back. The month leading up to August 20th now exists as a distant dream. There was a special tree on a hill overlooking the town. There, Haru met 3 friends whom she wished to dream alongside. One day, she found herself alone, the only one able to appreciate her special place. But Haru was not sad. Haru knew that she would not be alone forever. Perhaps the greatest treasure is the hope that we can one day share a small gift with those we love.